Hey everyone, and in this video, we're going to learn how to write a validation script that will check if someone has requested time off and is asking for too much time, and will reject it automatically if that's the case. This will save the manager a lot of time and will also let employees keep track of how many vacation days they have left for the year. So I'm in the final version of our app right now, and when an employee goes in and makes a request, we actually have a feature that will prevent it from going through if they're requesting too much time off. In this fictitious scenario, each employee is allotted 20 days of time off per year. So when I go in here, I choose my name, and I say I'm going to take the whole month off. Then, when I hit submit, it doesn't create a record. I just get an error and a message that lets me know how much time off I have left for the year, so I don't go bugging the manager to look it up. Now, I'm going to switch back over to the working version of our app, and I just want to take a quick look at our employee information. So I'm going to click on that section, and I'm going to go to our report, and you can see that we're actually tracking this information already. We have a field for the number of days taken off, and if we can reference this information when someone is filling out a request, then we can make sure to throw an error if they're asking for more time off than they've been allotted, or if they've already reached their limit. So we're going to be going back into the workflow part of Creator and writing some more scripts. And if you need any help with it, in the description to this video on YouTube, there should be a link to a little cheat sheet that will help you out with the code, in case you need to reference it, or if you just want to copy and paste it into your app. Now I'm going to click on Edit this application, and I'm going to go over to the Workflow section. We have to create a new action in a new workflow. Click on the New Workflow button, then choose the While Using Form option. Our workflow is based on the vacation request form. Finally, we'll name the workflow Record Scripts. Now click Create Workflow. So click on Add New Action, and as usual, the first thing you need to do when you get to the workflow section is to decide where to put your code. For this script, we need to check people's information once it's been submitted, but before it actually creates a record in the database. And that's when you would use the validate code. Syntax Assist will be enabled by default. Let's disable it by using the toggle above and continue using the script builder. So the first thing we need to do is look up how many days off the particular employee filling out this request has already had. To do that, we're going to use the fetch record syntax. Just like the previous videos, we'll be scripting a code that'll do exactly what we need it to do. So I'm just going to drag that onto our script builder here. It then gives you this drop-down that's really helpful because it lets you look up the names of the forms and fields in your application, so you don't have to keep switching back and forth to look them up. The first thing we need to do here is to create a variable. And when you do that, you're just taking a word and you're associating some information with it. So it's kind of like storing information inside a word. Usually, you'll want to give it a descriptive name that will help you remember what information you associated with what variable. In this case, it's the number of days someone's already had off. So I'll just call this days off. And then I'll click on Form, and we get another little pop-up that helps us out. This is conveniently listing all of the forms in our application by their form link name. So we want to look this up from the employee information form, because that's where we're storing it. For the next step, we need to write the criteria for the records we want to look up from the employee information form. And that's what's going to happen in between these square brackets here. So choose a field from the employee information form, and then you write an expression that tells Creator which information in that field you're looking for. When you look at this drop-down here, you can see the names of the fields on this form, but there's also some other information that Creator automatically keeps every time a record gets added. You can see things like added user, that's the person who submitted the record, and what we're actually going to do is look for records based off of the employee ID. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and click ID. And on the right, it says what kind of variable this is. And IDs are just numbers, so Creator calls numbers big ints or big integers. So I'm going to choose that. And then we want to find the record with an ID that matches. There's other options that show up here, like greater than or less than or not equal, which can be handy sometimes. But what we want to do is find a record that's equal to, and then this is where we're going to have to write a little part ourselves. So we want to use information from the vacation request form to look up the employee on the employee form. Now I'll type input and then a period, and then the name of our lookup field on this form, which is the employee field. So what this script in between the square brackets is saying is to find all of the records in the employee form that have an ID equal to what we're putting in the employee field here. When an employee chooses their name from the list, even though they're seeing their name in the background, what they're really doing is choosing the ID of their record in your database. It's just saying, find the records where these match up. The last thing you need to do is say which field you're trying to look at. So you type a period outside the square brackets, and Creator gives you another pop-up that helps you out here. So you can scroll down, and we'll find the number of days taken off, and that's the first line of our script. The rest of the code that we're going to write will pop up an error message and cancel someone's submission. So the first thing we need to do is add in a condition, because if we didn't add a condition, then those steps would happen every time someone fills out this form, which definitely would not be good. So I'll just go over to the conditions section here, and I'll drag on an if condition, and then we need to write some criteria in these parentheses that tell Creator when to run this script. Since employees are only allowed 20 days off, we can compare the number of days they've already had off with the number of days that they're asking for. So again, I'll type input and then a period, and then the number of days requested. And if you want to know how I knew exactly the field name as Creator formatted it, you can click the Refer Fields button in the top right corner. This will show the link names of all the fields on this form. So I didn't have to switch over this time to get the name of the number of days they've requested. And then I'll write plus days off. Right now, we're tallying together the number of days they've actually had off and the number of days they're asking for. And if that number is greater than 20, then we want to run our script that cancels their submission. So what I'm actually going to do is put another set of parentheses in here, and that just tells Creator to add both of these things together before following the next step. And then I'll write greater than 20. What's really cool about this is that we just stored some information that was from a completely different form in a variable, and then we used it in this little calculation here to see whether or not this is a valid request for time off. The other handy thing we did in the final application was we told employees how many days off they have left. In our error message, I want to be able to tell employees how many days off they have left, so we can actually write another variable with another equation that will help us figure that out. I'm going to drag on the set variable task, and I'll name my variable days left. And so I'll put some parentheses over here, and then I'll write 20 minus input and then a period, days off. And you can see that little semicolon there that's just telling Creator that you've ended this line. So since the limit is 20, and we're looking at how many days they've actually taken off, this will tell us how many are left if someone has taken 5 days off already. 20 minus 5 means they have 15 days left for the year. Now, the final step is we're going to add in our error message that tells people this. So if you mouse over to the debug section and then drag on alert, we can start writing our message. Actually, what we need to do is put quotes here, which tells Creator that this alert message is not going to pull the information from a variable. It's just going to be some text. So I'll write, "You are exceeding your total number of days off. You have only," and then I'll add in a space here, and I'll write plus, and then days left. And so what that's doing is it's going to take the information in this variable and then add it into our message here. So you had only 15 if someone had 15 days left, and then I'll add a plus and start another set of quotes to continue our message. And I'll add in another space because if we don't, then our text will butt up against the number, which won't look right. So now you have only 15 vacation days left for this year. So the last step is that we need to cancel their submission and prevent it from going through. And if I just mouse over to the miscellaneous section, we have one called Cancel Submit here. And then I'll just drag that on, and I'll save this script. So now click Done, and then click Access this application. If I try and make a request for too many days off, it should give me this error. So I'll just choose a name here, and I'll say that I want the 1st through the 25th off, and that's 25 days. And I'll hit Submit, and we got our nice error message there, and it tells us exactly how many days off we actually have left for the year. And that's it for today's video, everybody.